Good evening and welcome to the January 9th school board meeting. Before we get started with the public hearing, we have a few items to cover, so we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you could please rise, we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Before we get into the approval of minutes, I would entertain a motion to strike from the agenda number 4, the approval of the warrants.
So moved.
I'll take a first by David.
Second.
Second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes, so that has been taken off. Moving on to the public hearing, moving on to the approval of minutes. We have non-public minutes from the December 12th, as well as public minutes from the December 12th and December 19th. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the non-public meeting minutes from December 12th.
Motion to approve.
First by Kearney.
Second.
Second by Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. I will now entertain a motion to approve the public minutes from December 12th.
So moved.
First by Jason.
Second.
Second by Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. And I will now entertain a motion to approve the public minutes from December 19th. First by Kearney.
Second.
Second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. At this time, we will move into, or open the public hearing. So with that, I will pass it over to Austin, and then I believe we will be hearing from Jane mostly. After the presentation, we will invite the public to come, and I believe because it's a public hearing, there's no time limit, I believe. Is that correct? I believe that's correct, yeah. So come on up and you'll be able to speak after that. And then after the public hearing, we will move to hopefully approve the budget. So with that, I'll pass it over to you, Austin.
Okay, right before the presentation, as we have done every year, we posted this public hearing at least 1 week in advance. Yesterday, I was informed by council that we were supposed to post the bond warrant articles separately from the proposed budget because they are for more than $100,000. This was not done. So tonight we will give the presentation for the warrant articles, and we will have a public hearing on those warrant articles as well. Then the school board will close the public hearing, vote to finalize the budget, and go on with the rest of the school board meeting. We have now posted a second public hearing for the 2 bonds. That's warrant article 2 and warrant article 3, which will be held next Tuesday, January 16th. That will be at the West Runningbrook Middle School cafeteria, again, starting at 6 o'clock p.m. The public will have another opportunity to discuss those warrants, and since the new bond rates will have been updated, we will have a more accurate tax impact for these 2 warrants. I apologize for any inconvenience this has caused, but hope the extra public hearing will give more people the opportunity to participate. So thank you. As Jonathan said, we are going to start the presentation. We ask that everybody write down their questions or keep them in the back of your mind so that when we get through the presentation, the last slide will be about questions and as he said, people coming up to the microphone. So we will get started right now. So I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank the weather for holding off a bit, and hopefully we'll hold off for a little bit longer before everybody, so that everybody gets a chance to get home. We will move to warrant article number 1. So to choose the following school district officers, 2 school board members at large, each for a 3-year term, and a school district moderator, also for a 3-year term. If anyone is interested in applying for one of the open school board positions or the school district moderator position, you can go online at sau10.org and get an application that way, or you can stop by the central office at 18 South Main Street, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So warrant article number 2 is for the capital improvements. There is an estimated tax impact in year 1 of 8 cents. And I need to stress that this warrant is not about regular maintenance and repairs, which have always been done. The regular repairs and maintenance have allowed many of our systems to still function well beyond their expected life, and we appreciate the work of our maintenance and custodial department in that area. The importance of this capital improvement relates to the major replacements of roofs, building facades, and overall systems within the building, that many of which are beyond their life expectancy. The money will add years of sustainability to our current buildings, most of which we hope to preserve for decades to come.
This slide is a culmination of reporting done by LaValle Brenzinger and Mark Jobin and Gale Associates related to the facility studies that we had done in the district on each of our 7 schools to determine what the needs were in the district as far as capital improvement replacements. And like Austin said, we're not looking, these are not repairs of items, these would be replacements of roofs or replacements of the fire alarm system or the sprinkler systems. So these are capital projects, and each one is broken down by phases, which are rated between a 1 to 3 year life expectancy of when we think that the project needs to be done. Phase 2 would be 3 to 5, and then phase 3 is 5 and beyond, of when we believe those projects need to be completed. And the breakdown of all of these are on our website for people to view. Phase 1 would start effectively, if this were to pass, it would start July 1. We would be doing work in the district related to any one of these projects. And you can see that for year 1, which is the phase 1, would be $10,450,000. We do add, based upon recommendations of the 3 contractors that we worked with, Gale, LaValle, and Jobin, it was prudent to put in 15% construction management, 15% soft costs, and 10% contingency fees along those project lines. So in year 1, we would be requesting, in the warrant article, would be the first year of interest payment on the $14,630,000, and that would be a 8% or an estimated 8% increase on the tax rate. The board will need to make a decision further along through the year of whether that would be a 15 or a 20-year bond, but either way, on whether it's 15 or 20, the first year interest on that would still be the same. And each one of these, if we didn't spend all the money over the course of the first year, second year, we would be investing those monies into interest-bearing accounts that would go towards paying off the bonds. So again, all this information can be found on our website. The next slide just talks about how the bonds work. So again, these are for major upgrades in our buildings and to provide and extend the life of our buildings. Maintenance, as Austin said, has done a phenomenal job of extending the life of equipment that probably lasted a lot longer than it should have. So we want to thank them for all of their work in doing that. But because we did the facilities assessment, we now have a facilities plan and we know when things need to be replaced. And that's what that chart in the previous slide addressed. Why would we be doing a bond? Well, you'd want to be able to spread the costs out over a number of years, and we know that those repairs have longevity. So replacing a roof, you're looking at 20 years or plus, or if you're going to do the alarm system. So those are things that you would not readily have available in a general operating budget, and doing a bond is a more fiscally responsible way to minimize the tax impact overall on your budget. So again, once we have the first year, it would be an interest-only payment, and when we get to year 2, that's when you'd start your interest and principal payments. And then you would, of course, while we're spending the money, investing the money as well, so that we can earn interest on those funds.
So there are lots of reasons that we believe that it's important to invest in the capital improvement of our facilities. And so we've identified 3 kind of primary reasons. The first is, in order to take care of the long-term viability of our buildings, we need to pay attention to major systems that need replacement or upgrading. As is the case in any facility, there are anticipated lifespans of major systems, and those need to be replaced and upgraded in order to meet the needs of the long term. So really, once a system has expended its usable life, you're kind of on borrowed time. So if we want to take a long-term view of the viability of our buildings, this is an important investment to make in those facilities. Secondly, although all of our buildings are safe, each of our buildings has been constructed and designed, many of them in a long time ago. And so it's important that as standards continue to change, and these include fresh air or air quality, air handling standards, they include safety standards. As these standards change, it's incumbent upon us to ensure that we modify and upgrade our building systems to meet those needs for both students and faculty members. Finally, our buildings, although they are primarily used as schools, they represent a significant part of our community assets and resources. We recognize that members of this community, some of whom don't have children in the schools, may still use our buildings. And so we have a responsibility and obligation to ensure that these buildings continue to operate and meet the needs of community members, which means we need to invest in their long-term sustainability.
Okay, warrant article number 3, which is for the new school. There is an estimated tax impact in year 1 of 37 cents. So we talked in the difference of capital improvements and repairs and maintenance. A new building will definitely cause there to be savings in both of those areas. There'll be a number of years before there'll be any need for capital improvements, and even the basic repairs and maintenance will be a lot less with a new building. All of our buildings in the districts, as you have heard, are aging, and some are so past their prime that pouring large sums of money into those buildings is not cost effective for the Derry taxpayers. And we believe that a new building will solve these problems. As I said, the first year interest payment is 37 cents, and in year 2, at the highest, it is estimated to be about $1.30.
So just to ensure people have some background information on the proposal for the new school, there is quite a bit of information on our website. There's a whole section dedicated to this project that includes site plans, that includes layouts of the building, that includes 3D renderings, things like that. But just some broad strokes, the proposed building would be at the site of Derry Village Elementary School. It would be about the same size as Barca. It would, when it opens, it would replace the existing South Range Elementary School. We anticipate the cost to be a little over $71 million, and we've sort of presented some changes to those costs, reducing the initial size of the building in order to save some money, and some of that happened as a part of our restructuring process. We have applied for state building aid. We did a presentation back in, I want to say it was December, where we tried to explain a little bit about how state building aid works. We are currently number 3 on the waiting list, so we may potentially find out this spring that we will be receiving building aid, but that is not a guarantee. We don't know, and we will not know until after the vote. So we have made this proposal with the assumption of not receiving building aid, but we have applied for it and are certainly hopeful. It's also important to recognize that if this new school is approved in March, it would open, the plan would be to open in the fall of 2027. So it's still a few years away. There's a lot of design, planning, site work that needs to happen for a project this large. So we've talked a little bit about why we believe that a new school would benefit students in the community and the faculty. First off, as we've talked about in some of our meetings, many of our schools, especially our older schools, have been designed for learning environments that are no longer necessarily how we teach and how students best learn. So the buildings that we're specifically talking about at South Range and Derry Village were built in the mid-1960s, and many of the spaces are no longer designed with modern or next-gen learning in mind. And so some of that has to do with spaces that are appropriately sized for whole group, small group, pull-out instruction, special programs. Older buildings weren't necessarily designed with those types of programs and that type of instruction in place. Secondly, as we've also discussed, some of our older buildings are not fully accessible to all students and staff. And some of that has to do, again, with changing standards. When these buildings were constructed in the 60s, they met the current standards of the day and have been grandfathered through over time. And we believe that our students, our faculty, community members deserve fully accessible buildings. We think that's a really important piece. As we talked about in the other Warren article, health and safety of students and staff is a huge priority. Our buildings are tremendously safe. Jane, the school board, past administrations have invested a lot of funds and time and effort in upgrading those systems, but they are still sort of, those systems are built into older, aging buildings that had site plans, layouts that were not necessarily considering the same safety precautions, the same expectations of natural lighting, of auditory support for students who may have hearing issues, or faculty, or air quality or fresh air. So these are all more modern standards that were not in place when these buildings were built. As Austin mentioned, that the maintenance and upkeep of modern buildings is more efficient, it is more cost effective for the community, and it maintains a commitment to a long-term sustainability for our buildings. So we believe part of the big picture, the planning for the future, is building a new school, a new elementary school.
So moving on to warrant article number 4, which is the proposed budget. This has an estimated tax impact of $1.05. And the overall amount is $103,484,475. It is approximately $750,000 above the default budget, which is $102,737,154. And as has happened in the past, we hope that the town votes for this proposed budget. This was a very collaborative effort between the Fiscal Advisory Committee and the school board, and like everything else, there was concessions made, and they put forward a budget that they believe will provide the best possible education in a fiscally responsible way here in Derry for our students. If the default budget comes into play because this proposed budget does not pass, that will not change the restructuring process. The school board voted last year to restructure and put a 5-6 intermediate school at West Runningbrook and put a 7-8 middle school at Gilbert H. Hood, and have the elementary schools be K through 4, the 4 remaining elementary schools, and that will not change. And we will need, if we have to cut somewhere around $750,000, there will be cuts to staffing. There's a possibility that class sizes will most likely need to increase. But once again, we're hoping that we will not see that. And I will remind everybody again, this was a collaborative project that the school board worked with the Fiscal Advisory Committee, and we believe it is what's best for the students and families here in Derry.
So what are some of the reasons of areas that impacted our budget? Firstly, employee benefits. And we've talked about this before, what our guaranteed maximum rate was going to be for health insurance, which unfortunately came in at 20.1%. And we did have Health Trust, who is our provider, come to a budget meeting and give an explanation to why our rates have increased so much. We do know that there were many other districts that have had significant increases in their rates. We are hoping that the actual rate, that unfortunately they always come in after the vote, that we're hoping that it comes in lower, and historically that has been the case, that it will come in lower than what they've guaranteed the maximum rate to be, because that is over $1 million of an impact on our budget. Health insurance is a nominal increase. New Hampshire retirement is always a 2-year rate, so there was no change in that for the 24-25 budget. Special education, this is simply information so that you can see number of students and what our population is. For Pinkerton Academy Special Education, the total budget is $7,312,000. But so the overall increase on Pinkerton Academy Special Education is about $1.2 million on our budget. And when we were working through the budget process and doing enrollment, we actually looked at our enrollment, and the board made some reductions of the estimates of students that would be attending next year, and using historical data to make that decision. So these increases actually would have been higher if we had simply done a straight promotion of students enrolled in the program. If we look at high school tuition for Pinkerton, we received their rate for next year, which is $16,308, and that's for every student that attends Pinkerton. And that rate is also applied to all students, even if they are out of, from sending towns, everyone pays the same rate. That is a 5.8% increase on their rate. We did also take a reduction on our projection of number of students. And also the next charter school is $10,695 for next year, which would be their rate, which is a 3% increase. And also for Pinkerton Academy, just as a note, $16,308 is what we pay for every student, but if a student receives additional services through special education, those are additional costs on top of the $16,000. Technology, we just had a small increase. We had some increases in software. The Chromebook program for the one-to-ones, we've been able to take that through ESSER grants for the past several years, and we'll continue to do that for next year, and that grant actually expires at the end of September of 2024, and then it will have to go back into the budget for 25-26. With transportation, we negotiated a contract last year and in the spring that it was effective for this current fiscal year. So some of those increases of the $382,000 in transportation is due to the new negotiated contract, in addition to some increased busing for special education students and additional monitoring. We have had outplacements that are a bit more of a distance than we've had before, and so there's increased costs for that. For long-term debt, the bond that we had for the addition and renovation to Gilbert H. Hood and the new school, which was Barker at the time, those bonds were paid off this fiscal year. So that's a net savings on the overall budget on the expense line of $1.2 million. But we also have to decrease the amount of revenue because we won't be receiving school building aid for those bonds. So when you remove that from the budget, it's a net decrease in your overall budget of cost of $762,000 for next year. And then we have our energy efficiency program from Honeywell, which has always been a net savings on our district because the costs have always offset the amount of utilities that you use in the district, and we are continuing to work with Honeywell in our district using ESSER funds to renovate and have replacement with the HVAC that will continue to show savings in our utilities throughout the district. This next slide is a breakdown of our overall budget. It does not include costs for Pinkerton and next charter school. Those will be in the next slide. But just to highlight just a few of the areas, this is really a year-over-year comparison, and the percentage change within those areas of the budget. You can see the ones that would just stand out. Contracted services with a 92% increase. Those are really for contracted services for special education. Those costs have increased dramatically, and it's been difficult to hire staff on board to fill those positions, so we've had to use contracted agencies. Elsewhere in the budget, you might notice a 15% reduction with utilities. Both natural gas and electrical rates are going down, so we try to take reductions of that and show that in the budget of 15%. And as a note, typically all contracts that I do for utilities are done in collaboration with the town of Derry, so I work with Mike Fowler and Austin working on those contracts. And so we're able to go out to bid and have the best rate possible combining all of our usage. And then you'll see the dues and debts where there was a 57% reduction. That's related to the Hood and Barker bond that matured this year. So that's a 57% savings on next year. This is just a slide that really breaks down the budget based on pre-K, which for us is our DEEP program, our Derry Early Education, which is for our 3- and 4-year-olds, through grade 8, and then you can also see the costs that we incur for students in grades 9 through 12 that are separate from the cost for Pinkerton Academy or next charter school. And that overall budget is a 3.77% increase for next year. And you can see Pinkerton Academy year over year, that is for general education and special education, was a 5.8% increase or $1.7 million. Next charter school has a $255,000 increase, and what I'd like to clarify on that is while it says it's a 31.9% increase on the budget, That's really because of their special education services that they provide. We used to have those in other areas of our budget. They provide the special education services now in their program, so they bill us directly. So their program didn't actually go up $255,000. We are just now showing the allocation appropriately where it should be, and it's not in our contracted services. It's now through Next Charter School. Students that attend Next Charter School who do receive special education services, the cost is actually significantly less than if they were receiving services at Pinkerton. So that's just a shift in where we show the cost. And then you'll see our federal funds and our capital reserve fund that was voted in last year for maintenance projects. Again, federal funds, you cannot spend any more than you've been awarded in a grant. And our food service program is only supported through students' payments as well as federal reimbursement for free and reduced meals. There is no impact on local taxation. So that total between all of the funds is 3.76%.
So just a few high-level points that we want to make about the budget in total. Some people have asked about class size. So the way in which we figure out staffing levels for each of our schools is based on class size goals that the school board sets. So we used those class size goals even in consideration of the restructuring program to maintain, or in some cases, reduce some class sizes. So there won't be any changes there. We did add a net 1.5 teaching positions to the budget. We did reduce 1 administrator from the budget. We feel as though this budget is an efficient use of technology. We're still maintaining our one-to-one technology program, which can be challenging. As Jane had mentioned, we've been really advantageous with our use of ESSER funds to ensure that we're spending those ESSER funds on allowable expenses, and one of which is maintaining our one-to-one technology devices for students and staff. And as we've gone through in the budget summary, there's a number of programmatic costs associated, including special education costs and things like that. So we're continuing those programs. Overall, keeping our K-8 spending at below a 4% increase, it was a little bit of a challenge. As Austin said, it involved a lot of collaboration and back and forth, especially in an environment where everything does cost more than it did a year ago. As Jane explained, one of the biggest drivers to those increases were increased health insurance costs, which are something that I think was felt by a lot of organizations, communities this year, as people are sort of changing some of their behaviors that were maybe delaying some care during COVID, and now are receiving that care, which is a good thing. But insurance companies give you rates based on how much you use the services. So that is certainly driving big pieces of our budget. Some questions that we've had posed, and I think we've talked about some of these. Want to make sure people understand the default versus the proposed budget. So as it says right in the warrant article, the default budget is basically last year's budget plus any costs that were previously voted, any increases that were previously approved by voters. And oftentimes that is collective bargaining agreements that were voted on in the past that included multi-year contracts. But what is not in the default budget is we can't necessarily add all of our expected increases in costs. So if a utility rate goes up, we're not allowed to include those increases in that default, which means that the default budget is often lower because it doesn't really reflect all of the true cost increases. If the proposed budget is not voted in, then as Austin said, we would defer to a default budget. There is, I believe, allowed one special meeting of the board to address cost items associated with the budget. But if those are not resolved, then there certainly have to be reductions that are made. And I think Austin explained that third question.
So if you're doing the math, we had warrant Article 2, which was an 8 cents impact, and then we had warrant Article 3, which is a 37-cent impact. We had the proposed budget at $1.05, and when you add this estimated tax impact of 4 cents, that should bring you to $1.54 total for all of the warrants, including the budget. And this warrant article, AFSCME, lovingly called Ask Me, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Council number 93, Local 1801. This is our assistants, and like our teaching staff, our assistants care deeply for our students, and our assistants not only work specifically with students, but they also assist our teachers in the performance of their duties, and oftentimes they assist some of our most vulnerable students. The tax impact on this article is extremely low, yet it provides the necessary increases in salary for our wonderful assistants. And I do believe this was a very collaborative effort through the negotiations that our school board did with the AFSCME group. And in the first year, which is coming up, 24-25, it's an estimated increase of almost $200,000. In 25-26, it's a little over $206,000, and it's close to $241,000 for 26-27. And then the reason we have Article number 6, which relates to this Article number 5, is if for some reason this union contract does not pass, then the school board can have a special meeting to try to deal with that. But once again, hopefully this warrant number 6 will not be needed when warrant article number 5 passes.
So we feel very strongly that the reason that the school board supports this contract is that our educational assistants provide vital service to our students and our faculty members. These are people, as Austin said, that work directly with students, and they're hourly employees. So this collective bargaining agreement is for hourly pay raises. And at the low end, or it's between a 60-cent an hour to $1.25 an hour based on their position and step. So there's different types of assistants. They all fall under the one collective bargaining agreement, but we have special education assistants, we have kindergarten assistants, we have library assistants, we have reading assistants, we have math assistants. I'm probably going to leave some out, computer assistants. And they all fall under this agreement, and they all have different contracts based on a certain number of hours a day and a pay schedule. As probably most people recognize, it's really challenging to recruit and retain these really talented people because the cost of living has gone up, and as a result, I think a lot of employers have increased the hourly wages for their staff members, which means we're in a more competitive labor market, which means we believe that in order to stay competitive and keep these really wonderful people and attract new wonderful people, that this contract is a very reasonable approach. If anybody is looking to work as an assistant, we do have some openings. They're posted on our website, where I was looking for more people. All right, I'm gonna amend this slide to say that another important date is next Tuesday, the 16th, at West Running Brook Middle School at 6 p.m. We will be holding another hearing to discuss the bond warrant articles. So again, that's next Tuesday, the 16th, 6 p.m., West Running Brook. We also have our deliberative session that takes place on Saturday, February 3rd. It's also at West Running Brook. typically in the gymnasium, starting at 10 a.m. And then finally, voting this year is on March 12th. And just again, want to heads up for people because the location has changed. We are going to be voting at the Pinkerton Academy Gymnasium, not at the Calvary Bible Church. So we want to make sure everybody knows the correct location. And I assume there's going to be no snow whatsoever on that day. And I think that's it for our presentation.
All right, thank you, Joe, Austin, and Jane, and everyone else that participated in putting that presentation together. Appreciate it. At this time, we would invite the public to provide their comments, feedback, questions. And so when you come to the podium, please state your name and your address for the record. And then, yeah, come on up.
Good evening, board members, administrators, Madam Secretary. My name is Tom Carden, 2 Cunningham Drive. Have a couple of comments. Question. What is the year 2 tax rate on the capital improvement plan? I know Dr. Garofalo gave the one for the new school, but not the...
Hi, Tom. It would be somewhere in the 30-cent range. So
30 cents?
Yeah, and we're actually, the rates that we had used for estimating were about 5% interest, and we expect that to be significantly lower. We'll find out this week what the bond bank just sold some bonds for. So that's on the high side. It would be 30 to 35 cents, but I think that's high.
Okay, good. And then that goes down every year a little bit?
Yes, it will go down every year.
Okay, good.
Yes.
All right, good. Yeah, you know, I know you were talking about the aid that the state gives the school. I mean, it just seems so backwards to me that we have to approve, you know, the school budget and then we have no idea if the state's going to give us any money. I mean, that's about as backwards as you could possibly be, but I don't need to tell you guys that. You know, my taxes just past year went up by $650, and it looks like next year with whatever you have here, it's probably going to go up another $500 or $600. And you know, then the year after, when the when the full cost of the new school goes into effect, I mean, that's a big concern to me. You know, what the effect it's going to have on the taxpayers. About 2.5 years ago, I was putting $600 away for taxes. I increased that to $750 this past year. And I know that's gonna continue to go up. So, you know, I've always supported and continue to support all the repairs and the, you know, that you need to do to the new schools. I think that's really important to do, and I think that should be right now, that should be the most important thing for you guys to do, and put that new school on the back burner. And I know you guys, you know, most of you support that, and you know, I respect that, but. You know, this problem didn't happen overnight, and you know, it's not going to get fixed overnight. But you know, I do want to thank each and every one of you for all the work you put in. I know you've put a lot of work into getting this budget and doing the repairs, and I just wanted to thank you all and wish you luck.
Thanks, Tom. As an aside, Tom, your wish is coming true. The school building aid formula and the process is changing, so they will actually be, after this year, they will be publishing that information prior to elections. So your wish has been granted. It's just not early enough. No problem.
Good evening, Jody Nelson, Nut Meadow Lane. I just had a question for you, and maybe you had talked about this already, and I apologize, but just by chance, I was researching something else, and I happened upon the fact that with the Inflation Reduction Act, K through 12 school districts can leverage federal tax credits to help to fund investments in clean energy infrastructure and reduce cost. And I actually did see what exactly that meant. In either option, in a school option, the new school option or the school repair option, you might be able to grab some of those tax credits in either of those plans, whichever one you happen, the people of Derry happen to decide. So I just, like I said, I wasn't sure about that, and I just wanted to give that as an idea for you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
Good evening. Richard Tripp, 44 Wyndham Road. I have some questions on pages 3 and 4 of your presentation. Thank you, Jane, for putting numbers on. The warrant article number 2 is what, 36 million plus, and that's for the items covered on sheet 4. I have a question about what the various phases are going to accomplish, because we got phase 1, which is, I guess, phase 1, whenever that is. It's got a little over 10 million. Could you give us some idea of what's going to be accomplished with the $10.5 million? I think it's what, repairs or whatever. I think that's what the warrant says. But then you've got phase 2, which is another $7+ million. And I'm not really sure what we're getting for the $7 million. And then,
Richard, do you want us to answer that question first? Or do
oh,
you
you're
wanna
going to answer questions?
Yeah, we are.
Oh,
It's a public hearing.
well, all right.
So I think if you go to page 5, that gives a pretty good overview. Major replacements, upgrades, there's existing electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and structural systems, envelopes, windows and door replacements, fire and security systems. I believe, I could be wrong, there is a more comprehensive list on the website.
Yes, if you go to the Forward Bound site, there is a whole page about the maintenance plan, and about 2/3 of the way down, it details every project that's in this, except for South Range. We don't have that up yet.
Thank you.
And Richard, that information, you've been to a couple of our facility meetings. I think we've talked about all that information and as well, detailed by school.
Well, I ask these questions so that other people will maybe look into what we're getting for our money. You know, it's one of these things that if they go, oh, $35 million. Geez, I wonder what that is, you know. But if I come up here and I ask the questions and you answer them and you tell us where we can get the information, hopefully more people will understand what we're getting for the money, you know. So the forward bound page has a listing of what we're getting for our dollar.
Yeah, I mean, so for phase 1, years 1 through 3, couple examples. Richard, some of the big ticket items, $2.2 million to replace the concrete banding around the building at West Running Brook, replace the roof at Gilbert H. Hood, replace the windows in the 1950s section at Gilbert H. Hood, replace exterior windows in Grinnell, Those are some of the big items. 500,000, 2.2 million for the concrete banding, 730,000 to replace the windows in the 1950 section of Gilbert H. Hood. The roof is 750,000. So everything's itemized by school.
So we'll be
and
able to
phase.
go onto the forward-bound webpage and find out what essentially each of these items that are being paid for by the,
Correct. If you go to the forward bound page and you scroll down under the maintenance, proposed plan, capital improvements plan is proposed as of August 24, 2023. There's a link that'll bring you to the drive that shows you the document. It looks like Cliff's going to bring everything up for us.
You can access the forward bound page just by clicking on the little icon right over here. And we have the menu over here. The maintenance plan is the fourth one down. And then again, you can scroll down here and down here. This is the detailed plan, but here are the projects here in phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 listed by school.
And Cliff, can you just open up the file just so people can see? Thank you.
This has the dollar costs to go with each of the projects too.
super. You guys did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Evening. Meg Morrisberry, 12 Kendall Pond Road. So I have one question, I have two questions. The Jane's, the spread, the PowerPoint had 1.5 teaching position added. So I want to know what the total number of teachers in the budget for next year, federal funds, all of those numbers. We get a spreadsheet at the end of October from Kathy with the number of teachers that we currently, professional staff that we currently have employed right now. I just want to be able to compare that total number to that total number, and I can't figure it out. So, because everything's split up into operating codes, 1,500, 1,700, 2,100. So if somebody could give me that number, I would be really happy. The other thing I want to know is, we talk about we're cutting one administrators, but how many administrators are going to be here next year? We're cutting a school. So if there's going to be 30 administrators, so people who are working on an administrative contract that are not covered by the collective bargaining agreement, how many people are those going to be here? Those are the two numbers that I want to know. And then there's one third piece, because I couldn't figure it out when I watched the budget hearing, the last budget hearing, was you're cutting reading assistants and adding math assistants. I'm not quite sure what we're cutting, what we're adding, because both of those reading assistants and math assistants are crucial to providing the tier 2 intervention that we need in our schools. And to cut them is doing our kids a disservice, as far as I'm concerned. And so I'm not quite sure where in the budget that all fell. And I think that was all my questions for tonight. So I did watch most of the budget meetings while I was home, recuperating from surgery, but I do know that budget season is a really tough season for all of you, including your fiscal advisory committee, and I do appreciate all your hard work. And Jane's probably the person who should get the gold star, because she's always coming up with reports. Thank you.
Thanks, Meg.
Thank you, Meg. I know for sure, I do not know either of the first two questions, as far as the total number of teachers and the administrators. I don't know if you guys have those numbers tonight. If so, that'd be great.
I actually, unfortunately, I sent it in the format of, I broke it down by function code and identified numbers of positions. But we can just add those up and put it into a spreadsheet format. Yep.
As far as assistants, I believe currently we have 21 reading assistants. The plan that we talked about at the last budget meeting was to reduce that by 4, but to take those 4 people that were reducing reading assistants and make those math assistant positions. As part of the changing of the restructuring, it also included math intervention. I think we have math interventionists that we have changed that a little bit, and now there are also the math specialists. I was trying to get the terms correct. So there have been quite a few changes with that, but I believe the total number of assistants is going to remain the same. And I also, correct me if I'm wrong, do we have all 21 of those assistant positions filled today or this year?
We do not.
Okay.
No.
So that might, I don't know, that at least played into, I know some of the decision that, or my decision-making process is that we have difficulty filling those positions. And so where we have now math assistants, I know that was a consideration that I think we all had. It was a, I believe when I polled the fiscal advisory committee along with the school board, it was a 50-50 mix. I can't remember if it went one way or the other, but there wasn't overwhelming support one way or the other regarding the change in the assistants as well. But yeah, those are the answers I have. I don't know if anyone else wants to add anything. All right, anyone else? Richard, I'm just gonna, before you mosey all the way up here, is there anyone else that would like to speak prior to Mr. Tripp coming up again? Sorry, Richard. Jim gave you a sneak attack there.
Jim McGackran, 4 Brookview Drive. Just got a quick question from the numbers that both Austin and Jane gave. When you said on the bond, year 1 was 37 cents and year 2 was $1.30, is that $1.30 more or 93 cents more?
I believe it's 93 cents more, but
Are you talking about the new school bond?
Yeah, the new school, right? If year 1 is 37 cents and Austin then said year 2 would be $1.30, you want to make, if for purposes of the public announcement, you don't want people to think it's another $1.30, it's $1.30 total, it's 93 cents more. So
$1.30.
just for clarity, it's $1.30
Total.
total, so that it's a net 93 for year 2. $1.30 total's the highest, and then it decrements every year,
Good
couple of
clarification.
pennies, right?
And that is, as Jane always does, a conservatively high estimate.
Right, and I understand she said it's worth, based on a 5% bond rate. For the purposes of your forthcoming meetings, you just want to make sure that's clear, because people will think year 1's 37, year 2's $1.30. It's not, it's 37 plus 93. The net is $1.30, and then therefore going down at a rate of, whatever, 2 or 3 cents every year because of the way you structure your bonds. Just a friendly suggestion.
Yes, and we actually used 5 3/4%.
5 3/4
and
is
we
what you used?
We expect that to be down a couple percentage points when we represent next week.
So we should have adjusted numbers again by the time we get to the February meeting.
Bond Bank will have new
Bond Bank
numbers
will
for
have
us
the
this
closer
week.
numbers then? Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate it.
As soon as I get those, I'll post them.
thanks, Jim.
We hope to
Jim.
have it by next Tuesday.
Thank you.
All right, Catherine, are you coming up?
Like, can I talk about something other than budget?
I mean, this is the public hearing for the budget. Delegates and individuals with regards to regular board meeting will happen after this.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Richard, I think you're in the clear.
Good evening, Richard Tripp, 44 Wyndham Road. This is actually a continuation of my previous question, but I'll take it as my second swing. But so going back to sheet 4, this shows what your plans are for any capital improvements to the schools. So this is probably a question that you don't want to answer, but what happens if the bond for the new school never passes and you are stuck with the 7 schools you have? You obviously will have to replan what you're going to do. Have you made any considerations for something like that?
So, it's tough question to answer, right? We can't tell the future. And I think all 7 of us probably have different, maybe varying viewpoints on what that would be, but obviously with collaboration with the administration, and figuring out what the best would be, specifically, you know, with Jeremy, who's our director of maintenance, understanding what that looks like and how we move forward. Again, there's a lot of variables at play. We obviously have 2 seats up for election on the school board, so that changes the makeup of this this group of people as well. But I think you know, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I think we're all dedicated to finding a long-term solution for the facilities and making sure that they are brought up to today's standards and able to provide an educational place that really allows students to excel. Our staff, like Joe and Austin and Jane alluded to be to have safety and have access to the greatest. So again, I don't think there's anything specific that we can say, but if a new school doesn't pass, then, you know, come March, we'll have to revisit that and continue along and seeing how, you know, again, another question that you didn't ask but would have to be answered as well is, if a new school doesn't pass, does a capital improvement plan pass? So there's a lot of variables that play into that, but I don't want to speak for anyone else either, but yeah, it's
Well,
unknown, unfortunately.
I would hope that your capital improvement warrant passes, because the schools need the repairs, and you don't have any funds to make the repairs without the warrant. So, good luck.
Mr. Tripp, we agree wholeheartedly with you about that capital improvement, because we do need to fix our schools. Most of our schools are staying, and we want them to have sustainability. So we couldn't agree with you more. I just want to remind everybody that Derry Village is closing, so we're actually going to be at 6 school buildings as of next year. And we will also be looking at the vote, because you make a very good point again. It may not pass. If it doesn't pass, how does it not pass? Does it get demolished 90-10, or is it a closer vote where we can then look at, okay, maybe we need to make some tweaks? And so I think there's so many things. That's why I think Jonathan's saying it's hard to give a firm answer right now, but the vote will tell us a lot.
Yeah, well, as Mr. McEachran said, you know, the slam on the warrant article 1 is not the first year; it's the second year, and people need to be aware that there's going to be an extra almost $1 on the tax rate. So I'm not, well, actually, I'm not in favor of the new school, but the cost of it is not the real reason. It's a secondary reason, because I don't believe that the new school is necessary. But I definitely don't believe that the tax rate going up $1 this year, well, I don't know, it's probably going up something like $1, and then going up another $1 the next year is something that the town can survive. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. So I know Richard spoke twice. I didn't see anyone else. I'll make a last call for anyone else that would like to approach and make any more comments or questions. Not seeing any, so thank you everyone for coming up and sharing your thoughts and questions and concerns. At this time, we will close the public hearing and move on to the next agenda item. I don't think we have, yeah. So moving on, at this time, since the public hearing is closed, I would certainly entertain any motions regarding the budget or the proposed warrants. As a reminder, we would only be considering warrants 1, 4, 5, and 6 tonight. So at this point, I'll open up to the board if there are any motions that they would like to bring forward.
Just a few comments. So when you look at the budget sheet in front of you,
David, sorry, I think we should probably bring a motion and then bring it to discussion, and then we'll be able to.
comments on the process?
We should, I guess we can. Go ahead.
I'll make it quick. So when you look at the budget sheet, when you look at budget total, where it goes from 99 million to 103, it's a 3.76% increase. I know, I'll speak for myself, when I look at my budget at my house, I know we've gone up 6, 7, 8, 9%, somewhere in that ballpark, if you factor in oil or that kind of stuff. So I think, focusing on the number is not the right way to look at it. You want to look at the percent increase. And I think as a board, as administration, as a fiscal advisory group, I think we did a really good job of keeping it at 3.76. Because in life today, maybe in the future things will get better from an inflationary perspective. I think that's a pretty good idea, good target. One other thing I would say is, if you look at the bottom of the sheet where it says statewide education property tax, so you'll see adequacy, that's our money that we get from the state. And if you'll notice, the Department of Revenue, I believe, manages this, if I could be mistaken, but we saw so we got $900,000, a little over $900,000 last year, and now in this budget, in an increase from the adequacy perspective. You don't see the increase here because it's net from last year. It's the same number as last year because we got the increase. So when you look at the swept number, we got a third of that money went away. So it makes it tough. You're trying to balance a budget, and then a third of your money, your increase goes away in the second year of the budget cycle for the state. So these are, I'm just giving facts. I'm just want to tell people, when you look at this sheet, there's some key areas that you want to look at. And in my opinion, the stuff that we can control is at, not even stuff, if you take out Pinkerton, yeah, it's the same number. So 3.76 is what we can control, and half of what we can control, we can't control, if that makes any sense. We talk about 20% increases in health insurance and some other items that were brought up. So yeah, you see $1.05. So the only way that number will come down is if we see significant increases in our revenue. And that comes in various forms, and I won't get into it right now. But when you look at 3.76, I have a hard time thinking that we didn't do a good job here, and I will always say that we did. I think in this district, we don't have an expense problem as now. We have a revenue problem, and we need to solve that somehow. And hopefully we can find ways to do that and work together to do that. And we started that process in our quarterly meetings with the legislative liaison. So if we can really dig in as a group and as a community, I think if we, like I said, it's not an expense problem, it's a revenue problem. Thank you.
All right, thank you, David. Yeah, again, I will express, I would entertain a motion to approve the budget. I think the total amount would be, so yeah, I would entertain a motion to approve the budget as presented of $103,484,457. Jane, I'm going to ask you, it says 1 cent here, but okay, thank you. So an even $103,484,457. I would entertain that motion. First by Jason. Second by Kearney. I'll open this for further discussion. Anyone else have anything to add regarding the budget before we move to a vote?
I mean, I thought this was a really collaborative process. I think this is the best budget that we could have gotten. And I mean, you know, yes, it is above default, it's above last year's budget, but I mean, I don't see how that we can continue to avoid that. You know, baseline, no matter what you do with this budget, it goes up every year. Step increases for salaries, you know, you have variables like health insurance, you have variables like utilities. So, you know, to continue to try to keep it under default every year is not a sustainable path. You know, I think to dovetail on what David said, I mean, it really is a, you know, a revenue problem. It is really difficult to, you know, to raise so much of what we need to fund this school district exclusively from local property taxes. You know, I mean, this town is in a difficult position when it comes to that. You know, we don't have the type of industrial and commercial development that a Londonderry or a Salem or a Nashua has. We don't have the high property values that a Portsmouth or a Rye or a Wolfboro has. You know, so without some sort of change to the formula, you know, this is going to continue to be a problem every year.
Anyone else?
I just want to quickly thank all of the facility staff and everyone a part of creating this budget. I know that it was a lot of hard work and a lot of hours into it, so thank you sincerely for all of that you do.
Yeah, so I would definitely echo some of the sentiments that David and Michael made as well. I think, again, if we go back to the beginning of this process, not even in the summer, but when we first met as a fiscal advisory committee with the school board and the administration, I feel like this process this year got down to brass tacks pretty quickly, and we all understood that we had a tough path to get to where we were. Like Austin said, there were compromises, both from an administrative standpoint, as well as, I think, a school board standpoint, and as well as a fiscal advisory committee. I appreciate the conversations that we had, and, you know, at the end of the budget process, when we go through and poll, you know, it was overwhelming support by everyone that was involved in that process, which doesn't necessarily surprise me. However, I think it is a testament to, you know, the work that went into it, and we made some very tough asks of the administration, which did result in, you know, cutting administrators and getting to this percentage, which was below 4%. And so, yeah, I think all things considered, that this is a really representative budget that will allow us to, and our staff, and again, in our staff and our teachers, to continue to provide what I would consider to be an exceptional education. And so, yeah, that's, again, I think I hope that the public overwhelmingly supports this as well. But yeah, with that, I will, unless anyone else has anything last to say, we'll move on to a roll call vote. All right, we'll start with Kearney.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Jason.
Yes.
Paul. Sorry, Paul, I didn't hear that. Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And Brenda.
I'm voting yes because we need a budget to move forward with education in our school district, but I don't agree that all the concessions that could have been made were made. I don't agree with adding administrators. I don't agree with cutting a reading assistants. Children need to be able to read, to be able to do anything, including math. So while I'm supporting the budget, I don't agree with a lot of things in it.
Just moving forward, Brenda, I'd be appreciative if you have that as part of the discussion. We want to keep votes for yay and nay, so I will vote yes as well. Motion passes 7-0. At this point, I would entertain a motion to accept warrant articles 1 as well, which is to move forward with, or to put on the ballot, the 2 school board members as well as a school district moderator.
So moved.
First by Michael.
Second.
Second by Jason. I'll do another roll call. Brenda, we'll start with you.
Yes.
Actually, sorry, let me back up. Is there any further discussion on that? Not, can't imagine there would be. All right. Brenda?
Yes.
Paul? Jason?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Kearney?
Yes.
Chair votes yes as well. That passes 7-1. The next, sorry, 7-0, sorry. The next warrant article I would entertain to approve would be warrant article 5, which is the AFSCME assistance contract. So I would entertain a motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement that we have agreed to with AFSCME, which in the first year has an impact of $199,617.
So moved.
First by David.
Second.
Second by, sorry, I didn't see who that was.
Me.
Jason. Any further discussion? I will, again, echo the sentiments of the administration that these assistants are very important to our district. We appreciate all the hard work that they do for us, as well as our students. And again, I would ask that the public also overwhelmingly support this, specifically as it is a smaller tax impact, but the staff that we have in these positions are overwhelmingly we get a much higher return on the investment than any increase that we will see to the budget. So that would be my 2 cents. With that, I will move to count the votes. So Kearney?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Jason? Michael?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Paul? Yes. Brenda? Yes. Chair votes yes. Motion passes 7-0. And then the last warrant article that we need to approve, I would entertain a motion to approve the warrant article number 6, which gives the school district the ability to have one meeting to address Article 5, should Article 5 be defeated.
Motion to approve.
First by Kearney,
Second.
second by Jason. Any further discussion? All right. Start with Brenda. Yes. Paul.
Yes.
Jason.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Chair votes yes as well. That passes 7-0. With that wraps up the warrant articles that we have on the docket tonight. As a reminder, next Tuesday, and we will continue to say this all night, we'll have another bond hearing for Articles 2 and 3. So please come and attend that. It will be at West Running Brook, as there is a town council meeting here that night. Additionally, the filing period for the positions that we just put forward on the ballot starts the day after the presidential primary, so January 24th, and is open until February 2nd, I believe, until 5 p.m.
Correct.
And those school positions can be applied for down at the SAU. You can drop off that paperwork there. Other dates to remember, the deliberative session, which will be held at West Running Brook Middle School, will be on February 3rd at 10 a.m. And again, voting day will be March 12th at Pinkerton Academy, Hackler Gymnasium. That's it. That's all I have. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Just to clarify, because Meg mentioned it and then it was just mentioned right now, we did not cut reading assistants. We reallocated the positions to math assistants. And we did that because those reading assistant positions were vacant. Just some context there, we reallocated from one line item to the other. Nothing was cut. It was a reallocation. So that's really important to remember and factually correct when you say it that way, for lack of a better term. So just to keep that in mind, they were not cut, they were reallocated to a different line. Thank you.
I will make their same request of you that I made of Brenda. Just try to remember to keep those in the discussion period. I agree. With that being said, we will move on to the next agenda item, which I believe we have Anthony Henry here to give an update on Pinkerton Academy.
I think there's something else before me.
Oh, did I miss something?
7. Oh, no, 6. Or did you just do that?
Give me one.
Okay. So, all right, construction's on schedule with the new building. A lot of the times with construction, it's not, so it is. That's good. Midterms are next week. That'll mark the end of the first semester. The following week will
begin the second semester. Winter sports have begun. That's basketball, track, that kind of thing. Actually, the other day, Jackson Marshall, who is a basketball player at Pinkerton, broke the school's points record for total, so that's pretty cool.
Points? How many points?
I think it was
I'm not-
52.
Yeah,
52.
I think it's
Yeah.
in the 50s, I know that.
yeah. I've seen him play. He's amazing. He's amazing. And lastly, not a lot this update, Primary Bank Young Heroes, they give that out once a month to a student that has done something, hero-worthy. And this past year, it's once a month, so there's 12 of them. 4 of them were from Pinkerton. So that would be A.J. Townsend, Sophie Baird, Calvin Plant, and Emma Polyukovich, I think that's how you say it. And Emma actually won the grand prize. All 4 of them received a $1,000 scholarship. Emma received an additional $10,000. I believe it was for, if I'm not mistaken, getting some money for Ukraine, for the food, I believe. If there's any questions, that's all I have.
I think that deserves a round of applause.
Are you ready for midterms next week?
As ready as I can be.
Thank you, Anthony. Great to hear what's going on in Pinkerton. Could you repeat that program? All I wrote down was 4 heroes.
Primary Bank Young Heroes.
Thank you.
Sponsored by Primary Bank.
So thank you to Primary Bank for that program. Congratulations to AJ, Sophie, Calvin, and Emma. That's really great. If you are listening or your parents, we'd love to hear more about that. So come on in, and we'd love to hear what you guys did to receive that. So thank you, Anthony.
I will add that it's 12 winners throughout the state. 4 of them were from Pinkerton.
Yep.
So it's
That's very good. All right. Well, at this time, we will now open up delegates and individuals. So as you come up, please state your name and address for the record. You will be granted 3 minutes, and the lights in front of you will be indicators. Green means you are well within your 3 minutes. The yellow or orange means that you are within 30 seconds of wrapping up, and the red means that we would like you to wrap up very quickly. So come on up and approach the podium, please.
I guess I'm the lucky winner. Jody Nelson, I guess I'm speaking as your Derry State Representative now. I have 4 items to talk to you about. First item is HB 1088, which is a bill that I am sponsoring, enabling schools to maintain a supply of epinephrine auto-injectors. I would love to have people at home and your support on that. I will post on my Jody Nelson for Derry Facebook page more info on how to do that tomorrow. I also am testifying to a House Resolution HCR 10 on Friday at 10:45. I'm a co-sponsor on this one, and the House Resolution is urging Congress to increase federal funding for special education services to reduce property taxes in New Hampshire. There were a couple of bills that we voted on last week that were concerning to some people in the community. Mr. Clapp sent us an email about one of them. So for transparency's sake, just because of the people who were, on social media and also with Mr. Clapp, I wanted to just address it right here for everybody, so they, and everybody can, hear my reasons and reasons of my colleagues. So the first bill that I want to talk about that people had a lot of problem with how we voted is HB 601, relative to state participation in the Medicaid direct certification for free and reduced lunch price school meals. That would mean that people who are enrolled in Medicaid, their financial information would automatically be sent over to the department that that enrolls people in people's children in free and reduced lunch. There's two parts to the funding of that, generally speaking. One part is reimbursement for the actual school lunch from the federal government, and there's another part, and that's state funding. And I'm just going to read a little bit from the majority report. This bill would require the Department of Education to seek participation in direct certification with Medicaid. The advocates for the bill spoke of addressing student hunger, but the cost of providing meals to any affected students is negligible compared to the impact on the Education Trust Fund recently estimated by the committee in Study SNAP and Medicaid changes on free or reduced meals and stated education aid programs to be $190.3 million. This is a non-budget year, and with the uncertainty on the funding formulas, because we are still,
Jody,
I'm sorry.
I
Can I
hate to
have
interrupt.
extra
I
time?
will entertain a motion to extend.
So moved.
First by Jason, second by David. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Thank you. I'm
motion-
sorry. I'm trying to be brief about it, but I want to make sure that I'm being thorough and for you to understand where we came about this. This year is a non-budget year, and so that being said, the responsible course of action is discuss such sweeping changes to education funding as part of the next budget cycle. We can always revisit things. Also, the second part that people had issue with, and I did too, is that we take an oath to uphold the New Hampshire Constitution. And part of the New Hampshire Constitution is a right of privacy. And it states an individual's right to live free from governmental intrusion in private or personal information is natural, essential, and inherent. And a lot of people felt that automatically sending people's financial information without their express permission or without an opt-in would be infringing on their privacy. Those are the two main reasons why I voted against this bill at this time, and similar to a lot of my colleagues. I just wanted to mention to the people at home that you can enroll in the free lunch program at any time during the year. If you have a change of employment or you have other changes to your financial situation, if you forgot to do it at the beginning of the year and you didn't realize that you could still do it, I think that I would take it upon myself again to spread the word and try to get more people to sign up. And I was also thinking too, just a suggestion, we get these emails, which I really appreciate, from the school district. I love it. We just got one about kindergarten enrollment for next year. Maybe you could think about putting out another email, just saying, hey, if you didn't sign up or you've had a change in your financial situation, you're still able to do that. So, we still have the opportunity, I guess is what I'm saying, to be able to bring more money into Derry by having people sign up for that. The second bill that some people, oh, I'm sorry.
I just had a quick question for you, and you brought up a good point. I get the privacy issue, and I don't disagree with you, by the way. So Medicaid recertification is yearly, right? I know in my business, my industry, where I work, it is yearly.
It is, yes.
Is there an option to put a checkoff box, say, hey, check it off, say I want to opt out? Is that something that could possibly be instituted in the bill?
That is something that we can talk about, and I actually had been asking questions of certain people about that since our vote. So it definitely is something that I feel is going to be revisited in the future.
Perfect. Thank you.
We do have 38 other states that are presently enrolled in this program. So yes, good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
The second bill I just wanted to briefly touch upon that people were having a problem with is, and I'm sorry, I have to switch over here, is relating to criminal records checks in school employment. And Personally, I and a lot of other people did have a problem with the bill as it related to homeschoolers because the language was ambiguous. And I'll give you an example. So it really didn't state who needed to have a background check. So for example, if I wanted my son to go to my brother's house and do some woodworking and have that count as some sort of shop class or tech ed class, would my brother need to be background checked in order to do that? And also, the background checks that are required of the schools, you know more about it than I do, are really high-level background checks. And an average person, let's say I were a homeschooling parent, I would not have the access to be able to request those kinds of high-level background checks. And also, too, there was nothing in the bill that would monitor compliance or a department being assigned to record keeping. And for those reasons, myself and other people voted down the bill. And in all honesty, when I first started to read it, I said, oh, when I saw the title, oh, that's a no-brainer. But it is just, again, a reminder for me that the title of a bill might sound great, but when you actually get into the nuts and bolts of the bill, there are unintended consequences, things that people just didn't think about when they wrote the bill that are pointed out later, and that's sometimes why we have to vote down a bill.
Thank you, Jody.
Thank you, and that's all I have. Thank you for extending me the time. I really appreciate it.
Craig Cunningham, 41 Hunter Drive. I have a request of the school board. The New Hampshire School Funding Fairness Project is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that advocates for equitable funding of our schools and adequate funding of our schools. And with the recent court decision that basically said that the funding scheme that the legislature has put in place over the last 15 years is unconstitutional, it's brought a lot of questions about how does school funding work here in New Hampshire and what can be done to change it. They've done 24 meetings across the state for different towns to help to educate townspeople on how school funding works. One of the most recent ones was in Hampstead, where there was a pretty good turnout. I was wondering if this board might consider having a meeting like that so that we can educate folks on how school funding works and get people more engaged in the community in these discussions so that when things like what Ms. Nelson just described happen, everybody understands how it works. I mean, how convoluted is it that somebody our school funding formula says that if a student qualifies for a free or reduced lunch, the town receives $2,300 in additional aid. But if the parent chooses not to have that free or reduced lunch for their student, the school doesn't get that aid. That's a convoluted system, and people aren't aware of just how it works. We need to get that awareness in, and then maybe the community can work collaboratively with our legislative leaders and effectuate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Good evening. Richard Tripp. I'm a state representative, and I thought what Jody did was a great idea, that we could tell you a little bit about what we're doing. I sit on the Judiciary Committee, and tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock in Reps Hall, we're going to be hearing abortion bills. So if anybody is interested in testifying or hearing what is,
Richard, I hate to interrupt you, but these topics for delegates and individuals need to relate to schools. So we need to,
all right,
topics
well,
that relate to schools. So let's try and keep it to
I'll
that,
edit
those
my,
parameters, please.
what I have to say. I have something else to say. Tonight, when you guys were voting, it was difficult to hear some of the votes. And one of the other things that the Judiciary Committee does is we process bills that have to do with RSA 91A. And I just want to remind you that the reason for public meetings is so that the public can see and hear what you're discussing. You know, if people aren't speaking into the microphones, we can't hear what's being said. If you're talking amongst yourselves and the microphones are off, we can't hear what's being said. So I would ask that you make a little effort to ensure that when you're speaking, that the people can hear what's being said. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Catherine DeLay, 39 South Main Street. I'm here to present 584 signatures we've collected from members of our community asking the school board to pause the redistricting and restructuring plan and have those items put to vote. I'd like to remind you that on page 15 of the packet you've provided tonight, it does state that the decision to close the school board and restructure students is at the discretion of the school board. The proposed changes will have an enormous impact on the entire landscape of our community. Even with all the information that has been presented through various meetings, forums, reports, and website updates, it remains clear that we are not ready to execute the proposed plan. There is nobody following this project that could reasonably deny the hard work, efforts, and good faith that has been put forth by the school board and the administration. But it is also clear that there are still many unanswered questions and also other reasonable solutions that have not been fully explored and shared with the community. We acknowledge that there is a problem to solve for here and appreciate that the school board has taken action to find a solution. With this, though, the school board chose the proposed plan and took action to boldly move it forward and did not fully explore the alternatives that have been asked about by many within our community and even as presented options in the multiple forums hosted by the district. As I sit before you today, I ask that you take into account on the ballot in March before you continue forward. Instead of the proposed temporary disruptions, let's hear from the town by way of voting on the new school and then be forward bound together. Please remember, you have a community to serve. Keep in mind that the vast majority of community members that have spoken up at meetings and at forums have spoke out against these changes. Please do what is right. A community that trusted you with their votes to best represent them and to ensure the highest quality of equal educational opportunities are available to all students. I understand that after all the work that has been put into this, it would be quite deflating to say that at this time we're going to pause, but it is what is right, and it would give the school board an opportunity to better partner with the community and allow the district more time to move forward with a plan that best fits the needs and the visions of our townspeople. I also would challenge the school board. We've gotten this many signatures. I would challenge you to go knock on doors. I would challenge you to stand at the transfer station, get signatures. I would transfer you to get signature events and see if you could come up with that many signatures in support of your changes. I don't think that you would, but if you want to try it, if not, let's put it to vote in March. So at this time, we make a formal request that the school board reverse the vote to close DVS and restructure to K4 and revisit these changes after the voices of our community are heard by way of town vote in March. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Would you like our petitions?
I believe that would go to the administration. I'm not 100% sure. I'll be honest, I don't know how to handle the petition, but I mean, yeah, if we take it, that's great.
These are from all the town voters, and these are also some student petitions that they put together on their own.
Not seeing anyone else for delegates and individuals, so at this time I would close the delegates and individuals portion, and we can move on to the next agenda item.
One, we have had different representatives from the funding project in Derry, not recently, but they have been here. Andy Valinsky was one of them that came and presented at some point. So there have been representatives here, just not recent. I also wanted to thank Representative Nelson because during the summer, there was an opportunity for New Hampshire to obtain additional summer feeding funding that was somehow related to extra ESSER funds that was kind of being left. And I got wind of it. I called Jody because I couldn't get any answers as to how to get to the governor to say, please apply for this funding. It was a very short window of time. And long story short, the governor did sign for the funding and it came to New Hampshire. So she was pretty instrumental in doing that, so I appreciate it. And dealing with my crazy over the summer. We have to do something. So thank you.
I left something out of my report. Can I just add one thing I forgot? Course night is February 18th at 5:30. That's for the 8th graders to go to Pinkerton and learn about the courses that are being offered for freshmen. So felt that was important. Thank you.
All right. Next agenda item on the list is an update about the restructuring plan. So I'll kick it over to Austin and Joe for any updates that you guys have.
So there are no major updates from the restructuring plan's progress. A lot of the kind of next steps were built into the budget process. So we, I guess one big step that we took forward is we posted anticipated positions based on the proposed budget, which included math specialist positions, elementary STEM positions. We also have other positions that are open. So we posted in, and we are entertaining internal candidates. I believe the posting is open through tomorrow. I'm looking at the HR director over there. Yep. So that's a big part of the process because that is connected to staff assignments, which is also obviously a really important part of the restructuring process. So that's a little bit of an update there. We also have begun some real serious, we've been talking about transitions for students and faculty for this entire process, but we've begun some pretty serious brainstorming sessions that have laid out some potential plans for spring events for both teachers and parents, I shouldn't say both, for teachers, parents, and students, along with some potential summer and early fall events to help with the transition process. So that's involving our school leadership teams, and we'll also get feedback from faculty, other faculty members as well.
Thank you for that. Anybody from the board have questions, comments for Austin or Joe regarding those updates?
Thank you.
Brenda?
So I'm trying to understand how we're hiring for positions that haven't been approved in a budget yet.
Yeah, because of the nature of the sort of calendar related to budgets, we historically have posted anticipated positions. If we wait too long into March or April, we're going to lose out on candidates. So these are all anticipated. There's no formalized letters of agreement or contracts that go out until after the budget.
So did you say that the applications close this week?
So as part of our collective bargaining agreement, we have a posting period for new positions that is where we only look at internal candidates. So we leave it when we have a new position that opens up. I believe it's a 10 workday posting period, and that was the period that I was referring to. That 10 work days is done tomorrow from when we posted it.
Thank you.
And I just want to stress with it, these are preliminary assignments, all of which could go away depending, and for instance, if a petition, like was mentioned by the last speaker, goes through and things go back to the way they were and everything gets put on hold, I would first say I wish this was done last year. But, because you're right, it has been a great deal of work, but all of these are preliminary, and we're telling the teachers this, and we are keeping track of, for instance, here's the preliminary positions we had that we talked about in November, and then if these don't go through with a budget, then people go back to those positions and so forth. So everything is preliminary. Nothing will happen regarding positions as far as next year permanently, first and foremost till after the budget and we see what happens. And if the budget passes, then we'll start talking about specifics for next year.
Any other questions, comments for Austin or Joe? I do have a question. So I'm looking at the project plan for the restructuring. Just one item sticks out to me regarding the facilities, present playground plans to the school board. That was set for December 2023. I know that part of the budgeting process, we moved the playground into ESSER funds. I guess my question would be, when do we plan to see the updated playground plans?
We're actually working with, there's going to be an engineer coming to look at the site because we're going to have it up on the right-hand side, and excavation's going to have to be done on that. And we have also met with 2 playground vendors. So right now we're just waiting for the engineers to come up with a plan on and do an RFP to have bids to do the site work and playground.
Okay, thank you for that. The only other thing is, I guess, obviously we got that petition. Obviously, I think we should review that, and maybe that's more of a discussion point that we have at the next board meeting for the entire board to discuss, as there was a formal request made. So that's all I would have from a restructuring standpoint. Anyone else have anything else?
So if we wait until January, it's pretty late to have a discussion about a different warrant article, if that was to change,
Well, we've already approved warrant articles.
regarding the petition.
Right, we've already approved warrant articles, except for the new school, so I guess we could have that, I guess that could be part of the conversation next week during the bond. Or if we want to have a discussion now, we
Well,
can
I'm
certainly
just
do that
saying, if
too.
there's going to be something that needs to be prepared, it's not going to be done on time.
Understood. It's also impossible to make a decision when something was presented to us tonight, I believe. So, I mean, we can have the
No,
discussion.
It's not for me, it's not impossible for me.
Okay. Is there a motion you'd like to make then?
I've made that motion before. I'll make it again. I will make a motion that we put the brakes on the restructuring plan and move forward in a K5, 6, 7, 8 district.
Okay, is there a second of that motion?
Second.
Second by David. Any further discussion regarding that? I will share my thoughts before voting, just because, again, I think having this presented to us, it would be, trying to think of the right word, it would be, I don't think it would be the best idea to make this decision tonight, and we've put, as Catherine has stated, we've put a lot of work into this. There's been multiple conversations. I understand I appreciate the 584 signatures, as well as the student signatures. I can appreciate that. That being said, I do think, given the prior elections, I know when I initially ran, one of my main reasons for running was to help facilitate a long-term facilities plan. I think what we're doing is giving the people the opportunity to vote on a solution. I do disagree with the statement that was made that we have not looked at alternatives. I think we go all the way back to the facilities conversations that we had with Lovely Brenzinger when we hired them to do a facilities overview. And we, again, one of the first facilities meetings we had, we talked about keeping every school open. We talked about renovating every school. We talked about opening a new school. We talked about closing one school, closing two schools. There was even consideration, I believe, maybe not this facilities committee, but prior facilities committees to close a third school. And so I believe we as a board have done our jobs to bring solutions to the table. And it is now, incumbent upon the taxpayers to either support or not. And so that is my position. That's how I feel. But yeah, go ahead, Jason.
I'd just like to ask a question around the petition. Are there a minimum number of signatures required? Is it more of a, we would make a decision based on the output? Listen, I think 584, that's a lot of signatures. It's worth a discussion. Brenda brought a motion. I agree with your point, Jonathan, about it's hasty to turn back and reverse a decision here in the moment. Because I'm with you, right? There's a lot of work that's gone into from the administration, the restructuring, facilities, curriculum, et cetera. But we have to have a discussion. My question is just around the signatures. Does something trigger or require at a certain point?
Yeah, I don't think that's something that would trigger anything at a regular board meeting. Again, I would also, remind people that part of this process is the deliberative session where these types of things can also be brought as well. So yeah, I would say, again, there are other ways. I don't know what I have no clue, I'll be honest, about any statutes regarding to petitions. But again, I don't think we can make a legal, or I would not feel comfortable making it, a legal decision on the petition. I think a motion was brought to the table, we have the conversation, and we can do that. And then I guess bring this, have this petition, obviously, have our legal counsel look over, and they would walk us through what that process would look like as far as what we legally have to do with the petition, right? So, I don't know.
Thank you.
So the only other thing I'm going to add is, you talk about long-range plan. We are just now talking to strategic plan consultants. So in my opinion, we put the cart way before the horse. Talking to these companies has been great. It's been eye-opening. And so far, each one has said, you have to engage the community. You start at square one. You don't start at 100 and move back to get support. You start here and work with your community to get support. We're working on a strategic plan now. Not even now. We're working on hiring somebody to do that plan. It makes way more sense to stop and move forward with the people that we hire that are experts in doing that. You guys talk about experts all the time. Thank you.
Yeah, so I would say that the process was started back in 2015, 16, 17, whatever year it was, where we had a report saying that, and in this report you had town councilors, you had school board members, you had superintendents, you had former superintendents, you had the public, right? They were on it. It was a lengthy list of people, and you read each one, it's the who's who of Derry. And they came to the conclusion that a 5, 6, 7, 8 model had educational benefits. I can't remember. I've read most of it. I don't have it committed to memory. But the point was, the discussion wasn't started like 6 months ago or a year ago. It's been going on, ongoing, and at this point, I think when we met in April for our goals meeting, the point of the strategic plan was looking 5, 10, 15 years down the road. We're not looking at 1, 2, 3 years down the road. You know, in 15 years or 10 years, we got to figure out what to do at Grinnell, right? That's going to be a topic of discussion on the hit list or Hood, you know, long-term plans for those schools. And it doesn't even encompass just facilities. We're talking the whole run of the gamut of what we do here in our district, whether it's education, facilities, everything. So I don't think, I disagree that the process was started 2 years ago. I believe this has been a process that's been going on for many, many years. And I think the school board of last year actually saddled up and made a decision on how to move forward. And we're trying to execute on that plan. And then this school board saddled up and made a decision to move forward as well. You know, the only thing that's, I think, up for discussion today, in my opinion, is if you want to put a non-binding question on the ballot, I guess that's the vote we're taking today, right? I mean, other than that, my decision doesn't change. I don't want to be accused of circumventing the process by people like we heard last time. You know, we can vote again. I have no problem with that, but my decision hasn't changed, and I won't bore you with what my decision was. I've mentioned it about 6,000 times in the last 2 years, so I won't do it anymore. So thank you.
Not seeing any other comments, so I'll close the discussion period. So we have a motion on the table to essentially halt and revert back to, or I guess continue with the current structure that we have into place today. So I'll start with you, Brenda. Paul, can you speak into the microphone, please, Paul?
What's that?
Would you mind speaking into the microphone, please? Sorry.
No.
Thank you. Jason?
No.
Michael?
No.
David?
No.
Kearney?
Strongly no.
Chair votes no as well. The motion fails. 1 yay, 6 noes. All right, we'll move on to the next part of the agenda, which is a facilities update. So we'll kick it back to the administration for that. Do you guys want to talk about the PTA meetings? You want to talk about the PTA meetings?
That's in my superintendent's report.
Okay. Anything else from us facilities? I guess facilities. I'm open up to facilities committee then.
Yeah, I'll kick it over to the subcommittee.
You know, we have a meeting Thursday, I believe at 8:30 a.m. I know one of the things I'm going to bring to the meeting is we've talked about what do venues look like that we can communicate to the public. I'm going to plan to bring a list and we'll go through it and we can add, delete, whatever to that list. But I think we're obviously at the next step in the process where we need to, you know, we've got our plan. We need to really knock on doors. I've already started calling people, texting people, and getting that all in order, so I plan on continuing to do that, but we need to get a real community effort that involves more than just people who pay attention to these meetings, you know, every 2 weeks. So, you know, I think hopefully that meeting will be fruitful to finalize a list that encompasses what that looks like in the next, 8 weeks or whatever, till Election Day. So I think that's the plan, and then, you know, we talked about involvement by the school board and what that looks like. You know, we can figure out in that meeting as well what that looks like, and hopefully we can, you know, make some real progress and move forward with a real plan to really educate people on the 2 different warrant articles.
Jonathan, I do have one thing that did come up. We have about 80 questions and answers that we've developed going through all the documents. Tammy, our secretary, did a wonderful job of going through the 2 Monday night sessions painstakingly and getting the information on those. And we're hoping within a couple of weeks, we're revising that, making sure we're going back and not missing any of those questions so we can get that up on the website as well.
All right, thank you, David. Thank you, Austin. Jason or Michael, anything for you guys to add? Okay. All right, any questions from Paul, Brenda, or Karen? All right, we will move on to the next agenda item, which is the South Range School market valuation. Assuming this is going to Jane.
Sure. I was asked a while ago to get a assessment or market value for both the SAU property and South Range, and I presented the SAU property a couple months ago, and Dan Scanlon has provided his assessment of the property at South Range, and it's his opinion based on the property values now, the size of the land, which is 12 acres, and just giving an assessment of whether it would be something that would be developed. Again, this is his opinion, what the property could be used for, so I'm just submitting it for your review. I don't think there's really any action for it, but.
Yeah, thank you for getting that. I believe, what was it, the total amount was, or the? 2 to 1.4? Yeah, 1.25 to $1.5 million. So appreciate you getting that. I'm assuming that's with the lot as is, with no changes to it, correct?
Correct, and I did ask him the question of if you were to sell it to a developer, and I know in our report from, I think, Jobin or LaValle, they talked about a cost of $1 million to demo Derry Village, so I imagine the site cost would be similar, and he said that that would, you know, you'd have to negotiate with whomever you're selling your property to.
Gotcha.
On that
Okay.
piece. Yep.
All right, any questions for Jane regarding the South Range market valuation? All right, we'll stay with Jane for your business administrator update.
Okay, we just have some highlights. I just noted that we had gone and the administration, and board members divided and conquered some of the schools' PTA and presented the budget. At that time when I wrote this, we had done West Running Brook, Gilbert H. Hood, Deep, and Ernest P. Barca. And this week, last night, we did South Range and East Derry. So we'll finish off the remaining schools at their PTA meetings. As most people know, the new tax rate was set with the IRS. So, excuse me, we updated the payroll table wage brackets for all employees. We're also working on our district's annual report. The maintenance of equity reporting was completed, excuse me, for the ESSER 3 that was required by the Department of Education. I completed that last week. And as a reminder, our finance department will be having an on-site federal financial monitoring review of a number of activities next week on January 17th. Projects that are being audited are adult ed, IDEA preschool, Title I Part A, Title II Part A, the Beyond School Enrichment Grant, ESSER 2, ESSER 3. I almost was going to put in all of the requirements and requests that are needed to be provided for that next week. But it's a lot and it would really bore everybody, but it's a lot of work. So I want to thank ahead of time all of the people who are involved in those projects and activity, two of whom are sitting here, Laura and Kim Conant, and obviously thanking the finance department in advance for this audit. I have included general expenses by function code in your packet. I also included it by object code. And then I've also included our formulation for calculating the unreserved fund balance at this point in the year. Again, it's just a snapshot. We put in our revenues and expenditures and our potential encumbrances. Just a little report from food service. I'm sure that nobody's happy to see that we are have a negative balance of $32,600, and that is direct outstanding balances from our families. Christina has been working really, really hard with her assistant, contacting parents, working out payment plans, but it just continues to, the outstanding balance just continues to grow. We do work on getting as many people on free or reduced status. I actually just went through and did my review on a few applications that came in last week. But you can see that the amount outstanding of that $32,600 are families who do not qualify or have not filled out applications, which those are for our paid students. Almost 80% of that outstanding debt are for those that are not on free or reduced. Students who are on reduced are 8.74%, and free students 11.59%. You may ask, well, how can free students have an outstanding debt? They have that, either it's carried over from last year where they did not apply or did not qualify, or from their outstanding debt from the beginning of this school year where they did not apply or had not qualified at that point. So people have to reapply by October if they were previously approved for free status, and if they didn't do that, and we do send out reminders to those families who are on free and reduced. We always call and send out emails and send notification to remind them to re-enroll, that it has to be done by October. So whenever we do get donations, we try to put them towards a family that is either in an immediate crisis where they might not qualify for free or reduced, or however, or we try to put them to balances for free students. But right now we are trying to work actively with all of those families who have outstanding balances. Please remember when I did the budget presentation and I said there was no impact on local taxation. This is the instance where it does have an impact on local taxation, because that $32,600 now becomes the debt of the school district for outstanding payments that families owe. So we're going to do our best to continue to collect that. Also, last year we did a presentation on the outstanding or the surplus that we have in food service, and that was due to when we had COVID and everybody was on free. Our reimbursements are higher through the federal government, and there was a surplus amount in our account. However, the regulations are very clear. You cannot use that surplus to pay down your outstanding meal balances that your families have incurred. You have to use that surplus to reinvest in your program, and we had to develop a plan to do that, which Christina and I did, and had Austin review and approve and sent it to the state. One of those areas was replacing equipment that was no longer operable, and we purchased a steamer for Ernest P. Barca, and thanks to our talented maintenance department, they did the wiring and installed it, and now we have a brand new steamer in order to help the kitchen staff provide healthy meals to our kiddos, so that we're really appreciative of that. In facilities, we met last week. Austin, Jeremy, myself, Rob, met with the representatives from ARM Roofing and Gale Associates with regards to the roofing project at West Running Brook, as well as the exterior facade project at West Running Brook. And we wanted to do that. They wanted to coordinate, because having two massive projects like that going on simultaneously is going to take a lot of coordination. And so I appreciate both of those contractors coming down, and I think that we have a clear understanding of how those projects are going to go over the summer. So we're looking forward to those projects getting started. They are actually getting ready. They'll be crafting the RFPs and doing the bidding for us. But those will be done this summer. They also did infrared roof scanning at Ernest P. Barca and to work on the roof design, and it was determined that only 4% of the insulation needs to be replaced when the new roof is installed. That information was helpful to save a considerable amount of money on the new roof replacement. Renovation work has started in several classrooms at Gilbert H. Hood, because they are going to be using some of the vacant rooms right now for science rooms next year, and they definitely need renovations in there. There's no operable sinks or cabinetry that's workable for those, so maintenance has already started on that. And we just wanted to show you the floor that was replaced in the entranceway at West Running Brook. And that's all we have. Obviously, we had a significant snowfall over the weekend, and want to thank our custodians and maintenance department for getting the schools, well, I'm sure Austin's probably going to do that in his report, but thank them for all the snow removal that they did to get our schools operable. As a reminder, we only have pickup trucks that are removing snow for 7 properties and the warehouse and the SAU building. So it's a pretty amazing feat that they're able to do that in the amount of time that they have. So thank you to them.
Thank you for that comprehensive update. Any questions from the board for Jean? All right, and we will move on to personnel then.
Okay, today I do have one resignation that came about over the holiday break. Christina Canavan, special ed teacher at Ernest P. Barker Elementary School.
I would entertain a motion to regretfully accept the resignation of Christina Canavan, sorry.
Motion with regret.
First by Jason, second by Kearney. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 6-0. And the next agenda item is with you, Austin, and your superintendent update.
Okay, I will skip through a little bit. It made a lot of sense when I put this together, but we've mentioned a lot of these things a number of times tonight, but so bear with me if I repeat myself. The Fiscal Advisory Committee made their recommendations, and the school board moved the proposed school budget for 24-25 tonight here at the hearing. And as you've already heard, next Tuesday, January 16th, 6 o'clock, West Running Brook, we will have a public hearing on the 2 bond warrants, the capital improvements, warrant number 2, and the new building, warrant number 3. The 24-25 proposed budget and all warrant articles will then move forward to the deliberative session, February 3rd, which is Saturday, again at West Running Brook, this time in the gym, 10 o'clock in the morning. And voting will take place always the second Tuesday in March. It's 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and has changed, as you've probably heard, to Pinkerton Academy in the Hackler Gym. Since we have returned after the New Year's Day holiday, the members of the school board and SAU leadership team, as you have heard, have been presenting the proposed school budget and warrant articles at the PTA and PTSA meetings. I want to thank the school board members who've attended. I want to thank the administrators who have attended, and especially the members of those PTA and PTSAs. Thank you very much. I hope the staff, students, and all of their families have enjoyed the break over these holidays, and everyone is looking forward to a happy and healthy 2024. I started my visits as soon as school began again this new year, and as always, it's so great to see everyone getting back on track so quickly and with such enthusiasm. There is a good vibration out there and a lot of high energy, and it is very infectious, and everybody seems to be well rested from their time off. It would have been nice to get some snow over the holidays, especially for the kids, but at least we now did finally get that snow, and our ski resorts hopefully are up and running. Somebody told me they went over the break, and the poor ski resort they were trying to find snow to ski on. So hopefully they're a little bit better off, and I'm hoping that this storm will hit the slopes as well before the rain comes in. I am looking so forward to seeing staff as well as students out in their buildings, and excited to get things rolling here in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Any comments, questions for Austin from the board? Not seeing any. Thank you. We'll move on to FYIs. In the attachments, there's a January 1st enrollment report. And
I do have a FYI on the registration, on the,
kindergarten registrations. Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was gonna say kindergarten registration. I didn't have the dates in front of me, but I believe that's open now.
No.
Okay, it's about to open.
Yep, it is about to open at the end of this month. This is about kindergarten registration. And a couple of things I want to, there is a frequently asked questions document, as well as there will be a kindergarten registration document that will not only be on the website, but will be going out to all of our families. And I learned the hard way last year. So you are going to hear me stress this a number of times during this season of kindergarten registration. Please note that registration is on a first-come, first-served basis at each school. Now, what does that mean? If you live in Derry and you are kindergarten age, we have a seat for you. But please do not procrastinate, because we do fill up some of our schools so that 18 students per classroom, depending on the number of teachers, you can do the math, and that is going to fill up, and every year we have an overflow. Now, many parents don't have a problem with that. As long as their child has a kindergarten teacher and is in a building and has a kindergarten classroom, they are happy. But if you want to make sure that your student goes to your neighborhood elementary school, the sooner you register, the better. Now, we have places like Barker that have 5 teachers, so there's a lot of seats. But again, your seat is guaranteed. It's just not guaranteed at your school. So I will continue to emphasize that. And when kindergarten registration opens on Monday, January 29th, it begins at 8:00 a.m. If you have any questions, call directly to your school office. They will have the information. Trust me, the secretaries at all of those schools are well aware that they'll be emphasizing to their parents that, yes, they will have a seat, but it's first come, first serve at every school, so that hopefully those that want to make sure will get their children in. Did I emphasize that enough yet? I'll keep that up. Thank you.
Keep it in your superintendent update every week.
Yes.
Moving on to committees. Any committee updates that anyone would like to share? I know we just came back from the holidays, but.
We have a legislative liaison committee on Thursday night here in the second floor. So I will say those meetings have been pretty productive over the last year since the new format started this year. A lot of good discussion. So I'm happy with the results. Obviously, we just gotta, like I said many times, progress takes time, and we just gotta be patient. But I think we have very good discussions, and it's usually pretty, it's very productive. So people are allowed to go. It's not a lot of room in that room, but you are allowed. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Michael?
I was just going to speak to the strategic planning committee. I see you were probably going to as well, but we met with 2 of the vendors. We video conference with 2 of the vendors on Monday. We have another 2 tomorrow, and we should hopefully have a recommendation for the board at the next board meeting.
Thank you for that. Yeah, you covered mine. As a result of the Pinkerton Academy subcommittee, as a recommendation that came out of that, there was a request to have the sending town chairs of the board of the surrounding towns. I butchered that, but anyways, I think people get the point. To meet, Pinkerton Academy has accepted that invitation and invited the chairs to meet with them on January 17th. So this is a notice to you guys and really anyone else that to reach out if there's anything specific that any topics that we'd like to cover, certainly can do that. Take anything from the administration as well. But yeah, that's all I have from a committee standpoint. Anyone else? Oh yeah, manifest.
I move to approve the manifest in the amount of $5,049,714.89. Of that, we got general payroll of $3,904,901.30, and general expense of $1,144,813.59.
First by David. Second by Kearney. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We'll move on to other business. Does anyone on the board have any other business?
I do have one thing, Jonathan.
Go ahead.
I don't know if it should have kind of lived in the restructuring piece, but just around curriculum. This time of year, right, we're coming out of report cards and things like that, and spoken to a lot of folks, and myself included, just with regards to the competency-based. There's a lot of concern out there, at least from folks that I interact with, and myself and my family included, just around performance and are the students being set up and prepared for Pinkerton and beyond with this model. So I think as a board member, as a parent, as a member of the community, I'd like to kind of hear more about curriculum and understand how the competency-based model is working and how it's tracking. Because personally, I like to see numbers or letters, right? When I open up a report card, I don't like to read things that are subjective and open to interpretation. It's a little tricky to kind of understand, and grades can swing one way or the next. I know collectively we've all been caught up a lot in the restructuring and facilities and things, but I really would like to kind of see things, circle the wagons back on curriculum and student outcomes and achievement. Because, I open up the report card and we find it and we read through it, and there's a lot of things, and you're kind of like, you're talking to your kid and you're going, hey, what does this mean? What is that? And then I forget about it, right? So I wanted to bring that up today because I think it's important, and I don't think it's something that's discussed enough as part of our meetings. And I know you guys are doing a ton of work behind the scenes on it, but I think myself and folks out in the community need to hear and see what's happening with regards to education, because ultimately that's why we're all up here, right? It's not to build a new building, it's not to change this or change that. So, because personally, I'm concerned, right, about when my daughter, one more year, 8th grade next year, and then off to Pinkerton, she hasn't had homework in 2 years. And I'm trying to understand what her grades mean, and it's concerning. So I think I would like to see more. I know we have a curriculum committee. I don't know how often, what the cadence is that group meets, but I think sooner rather than later, that committee should probably sit again and start to discuss and talk about tactics and strategy and outcomes, and what does education actually look like moving forward outside of this model and this building. So I just wanted to bring that forward because we just got report cards, and if I don't do it today, I'll forget, and then I'll wait until the next time report cards come out and go, these things drive me crazy. And it's not just me. So there's a lot of folks that I've been speaking to that have the same concern. So thanks.
So just to address that question, we have a standing subcommittee meeting for curriculum on February 1st. So this will be on the agenda. We'll present it to that curriculum subcommittee team, and then we can, assuming that committee wants us to report out to the full board, we can do that.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, and just to dovetail off that as well, I think last time we met with you and Kim, I think Kearney and Brenda and I, we all asked for work to be done on essentially a dashboard or some sort of way in which we can measure success. So I don't expect that to be finalized at the next meeting in February 1st, but yeah, I think we're all I think we're at similar places. The other thing I will always advocate even to you as well as, I know it is subjective and that's tricky, and can be a little bit nuanced in a gray area. I know when I've met with teachers in the past regarding the competency, they feel pretty good about it, or I don't want to say they feel good about it. They are able to explain those types of things a little bit better as well. So for anyone, I would advocate reaching out to those teachers and setting up a time to discuss. And I think being involved as a parent and having that.
I do.
Yeah, yeah.
I know you're saying it out, but it's even still with meeting with administrators and teachers is still gray area,
Sure.
right? An 80 is an 80, or a B is a B, or an A is an A, or a 20 is a 20, right? So that's kind of what I'm getting at. There's a lot of conversations happening out there. A lot of folks are in the same boat, so.
Yeah, definitely more of a conversation than we'd probably be able to have tonight, for sure.
I just want to bring it up because if I don't forget.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for obliging me, Mr. Chair.
With that, is there any other business that would like to be discussed tonight?
Just be careful going home. I'm getting a lot of texts that the roads are very slippery, and there was also a fatality on 102. So be careful.
Well, yes, I will echo that. So please drive safely as we move to adjourn, and I will take a motion to do so.
So moved.
First by Jason. Second by Kearney. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion to adjourn. One last, as we leave, we will not be here in 2 weeks. The next school board meeting will be January 30th as well, so thank you.
Primary.
Yes, because the presidential primary is January 23rd. Thank you all, and have a good night.